Very good evening and welcome to The Turning Point. On The Turning Point today we have His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith from Colombo in Sri Lanka. Very good evening to you, Cardinal, and thank you for being on our program. We have watched you and we have followed the events since the Easter tragedy, and we have seen your calls for full investigation and for the application of the rule of law. You've come up against many difficulties. What's your take on the progress that we've seen? We've seen the former president pay some money, trying to wriggle out of it by asking for a long period to pay, and the court hasn't agreed. What's your take on this progress of the application of the rule of law?
Well, first of all, I should say that the Supreme Court has been quite straightforward and has given judgments which are independent and which can be valued, because the independence of the judiciary is one of the most important pillars of a true democracy. And on the Easter tragedy, whatever we have asked from the Supreme Court, they have stood with us and we are very happy about it. In the first place, we filed that FR case against the former President Sirisena and some of the officers of the police and the State Defense Ministry, and the Supreme Court came out very clearly in our favor by finding these people responsible for inaction. Basically, even if they knew about the forthcoming attacks, they had done nothing to prevent it. Yes. Therefore, they were fined heavy sums of money, and now they are still in the process of paying those fines.
I have often been asked, Your Eminence, whether the state intelligence or the police or other security authority, did they give prior notice? I mean, they had at least 2 weeks knowledge of this before. Did they ever give you, the church, any indication of a breakdown that was likely to come?
Nothing at all.
So no threat sort of level warning?
No warnings, nothing at all, not even a telephone call.
Right.
Now, we came to know later on through the investigations of the Presidential Commission that they received 4 warnings, one after the other, starting from 4th April 2019. So they had enough time to warn us and to keep us on the alert, or even to take their own action in ensuring that some of these central points were protected and that this disaster would be prevented. In fact, the police knew about this group. The army intelligence knew about this group. So much so that the 7th bomber is supposed to have been followed by the army intelligence after he failed to detonate the bomb at the Taj Hotel.
Yeah.
And they followed him. They went to his house. So they knew about it, what these people were planning to do. Ever since the attack on the Buddha statues in the Mavanella area, the police knew about their activities and so on. So they didn't do anything. And when the Indian intelligence sources warned them of an attack, they should have taken preventive measures in a more decisive way. But they didn't do anything. No one informed us. But when one of the ministers came out in public and said that his father warned him about it, right? So how did that man know about it? There were no investigations at all about it. And even 2 hours before the Easter attack, there had been a telephone call to these people. they could have given me a telephone call and we could have surely closed down the churches immediately without keeping these people as guinea pigs, ready for assassination. So it is very tragic and very unfortunate that these officers of the state machinery did not take steps to inform or prevent. They could have even prevented by sending a special alert, by checking the roads, by checking the vehicles, by checking the ID cards of the people in the surrounding areas of Colombo city, and they could have got hold of one or two of them easily that way.
Indeed.
But they didn't do anything.
As we move forward and so on, the suffering of those people affected by tragedy is ongoing. I think about a month or two ago, there was yet another victim. It was a young lady who was confined basically to a bed, also succumbed, leaving in her wake two young children. And I understand that the church is taking care of many of people's needs there. And in my conversations with these victims and so on, especially in the Nigambo area, they have reminded me time and time again that without the church, their life now would be even far more difficult. In that context, how important was it for you, for the court that ordered the compensation to be paid by the former president, the former IGP, and various other officials, including the head of intelligence and so on? How important is it, that judgment? And how important is it to ensure that that money is collected?
The Presidential Commission of Inquiry named all these people as people responsible for not informing the public and not preventing this tragedy. And therefore, on that basis, very clearly the evidence is there in the volumes that they produce. And on that basis, we went to courts and we got that judgment. And the judgment is a very good judgment on behalf of the victims. And the money is going to the victims through the compensation office. And we have nothing to do with that because that goes directly to the people who are affected. They have their lists and also, so as and when the money comes in, I was told that they are paying it to different families of the victims and so on. We have continued to support these families through funds that we have collected from our public, from Sri Lanka, from overseas. Many people have contributed. We have collected something like nearly 600 million rupees, and we have continued to distribute. We still have about 150 million rupees in reserve, which we continue to look after their needs always, especially the people who have been affected by wounds and serious damage to their normal health and they just can't get along. We have to support them, we have to help them. So that program continues. So this way we are happy that the judiciary helped us in this matter.
And what of the attempt by the former president and those officials to try and lengthen the repayment period of their fine?
Well, now the Supreme Court has given them a final ruling, and that is before the end of August this month. They have to settle all the dues. Otherwise, they will be charged with contempt of court. In fact, the Supreme Court has ordered the Attorney General to file such action against them, contempt of court. So I suppose that's the way it will go.
Right. And you can't get lives back, but how is the church now in terms of the belief, faith? Has it been much more difficult for you to reinstill the faith in the Republic?
Well, this is a tragedy that happened due to human authority or authorship.
Yeah.
It's not God who did it.
No.
It's human beings who did it. Out of hate, out of violence, and so on, and then political opportunism. So, all what we want, all what the victims want, is to know what really happened. Who was really behind this? Because it is true that 7 Muslims committed this horrible deed.
Yeah.
But there are many indications, many indications that it was not just the 7 Muslims, but there was another whole machinery behind that.
Yeah.
And that was state machinery, like the army intelligence, some other political authorities. So the people want the truth to be out more than anything else. Even if there is no compensation, at least we must know who did this to us. That is the most important question for us, not anything else. So we are asking the authorities, political leaders, to guarantee us that there will be a free and independent investigation, not handled by politicians, but independent investigation to find out exactly what happened.
And do you think, how confident are you that we will get that independent inquiry?
Well, we have, of course, the Catholic Church officially wrote letters to both Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe to asking them to investigate. But we didn't even get a reply, an acknowledgement from these 2 people. So, in that light, since nothing has happened, now only at the last minute before the election, just before the election to be held, they have sent on compulsory leave a person who has been named as one of the people grossly responsible for not preventing this Easter Sunday attack.
And for not bringing to notice, to the public's notice.
Yeah. So that person has been only at the last minute.
Yeah.
This government has done that. Then it is with our own efforts that we got the former IGP suspended from his functioning. Even if the government tried its best to get him back, both with the propagandistic campaigns that they have been carrying on, and the ridiculous belittling of the judiciary in Parliament, which is a shameful thing, an utterly shameful thing that the President and his government has done to ridicule the judiciary and try to control it through all kinds of means, especially in the case of this suspension of Desabandhu Tennakon. So these are things that we have received from the present leadership of the SLPP and UNP combined.
Yeah.
We have also received assurances from 2 other parties that if they come to power, that they will investigate. They will do a transparent investigation. The 2 parties are the Samagi Janabalavegaya of Mr. Premadasa, which has already presented their plan in Parliament in black and white. And then also the National People's this JVP-oriented group. NPP, yes. They have also assured us, they have given us a paper to say that they will follow the procedures as outlined by the penal code and they will do an investigation.
How confident are you that these things will actually be done as opposed to electioneering? Because clearly there are...
Well, we have to understand the hard facts as they are.
Indeed.
For 6 years or 5 years or 6 years this particular government was in power.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So,
Except at the last minute.
except at the last minute, right? But then these two other parties have given it to us in writing.
Right.
Whereas the government has not even acknowledged our letter. So we find that there are two different reactions from the two different groups.
How much of your faith in God has helps you to bring peace of mind in your own mind when you come up with this frustration after frustration?
Well, we know that God is the master of history, the Lord of history. He makes things happen in the most strange ways that you can ever imagine. So, looking back at history, looking back at what has happened in the past 2000 years of the presence of Christianity and our faith, we can say that sooner or later it will happen. And we know that justice will be given to us, because 274 people being killed in a most barbarous kind of manner cannot go unpunished, because in the Holy Bible it is said, your brother's blood cries out to me. After, in the book of Genesis, when Cain kills his brother Abel, from the Lord comes the message, what happened to your brother? Because your brother's blood cries out to me from the earth where it fell. So, 274 people who lost their lives is, before God's eyes, is something very serious, and divine punishment will come their way, sooner or later. That we are sure of.
And how fares Catholicism in Sri Lanka?
Well, Catholicism, we are not going around saying that everybody must become a Catholic in Sri Lanka, because we accept the wonderful variety of religious expressions that we have here in Sri Lanka, especially enriched by the presence of Buddhism, which has shaped our ways of thinking as Sri Lankans. Our culture, our moral principles, our attitudes, values are shaped by Buddhism, but also enriched by all the other religious persuasions that are there in Sri Lanka. Hinduism, Islam and Christianity. These are religious ways of looking at life which are invaluable, and they contribute to the well-being of people. So we appreciate that. And therefore we as Catholics, we learn to live in this country in the midst of all these our brothers and sisters and share our life. We may live 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, but then we want to share our life with our brothers and sisters who are Buddhists, Hindus and Muslims in fraternity. We have no expansionist agendas. So we are happy to be Catholics in this context, because it is unlike in the secular West where people don't believe in religion at all, right? We find that at least there are some values that we can cherish in the East, especially in countries like Sri Lanka.
On that sort of same theme, there's been moves in many parts of the world to decriminalize the LGBT part of life. What's your stance on that here in Sri Lanka?
Well, we have always upheld that anybody who is born with that kind of orientation, they can't help it. That's how they are. And society must learn to accept them, respect their dignity, and respect their rights as human beings, like any other human being. all the human rights that are guaranteed to other people should be given to them equally.
His Holiness.
So they should be treated with equal dignity. But what we object is the institutionalization of this trend, and to make even healthy people opt for it. You see, that is wrong. This is an ideal to which we can aspire. Youngsters, there is a lot of campaigning going on in the level of the schools, educational institutions, calling upon youngsters to make that option. But that's not possible, because that's a human condition that you have inherited, and you must be respected for what you are. But that doesn't mean that becomes an ideology which can be propagated everywhere.
So
that's where we differ.
So His Holiness Pope Francis says that everyone are children of God.
Correct. Everyone is children, is a child of God.
In Sri Lanka, there's a move to try and decriminalize these acts. I don't think it's gone much further than that.
Well, in a religious culture like ours, institutionalization of this thing is certainly not acceptable to us. But giving the rights of these people to live in dignity, whatever their condition is, such acts, sometimes they do, these things happen. Therefore, not to condemn people outright like that is what Jesus Christ did. When the sinful woman was brought to him and they were going to stone her, Jesus said, "Those who have not committed a sin, cast the first stone." It is said that one by one they threw the stones away and went away without stoning the woman, because they all had sins. All of us are people who are weak. Therefore, we must not cast stones at other people, right, unnecessarily. So, in that way, we cannot condemn people for what they are.
Last question. Again, on the same theme that you just spoke about. Will you find it in your heart to forgive those who perpetrated the gravest of crimes this country has ever had? And that is, of course, the sad story about the Easter tragedy.
Yes, we are willing to forgive and forget. But the truth must be known beforehand. We want to know the truth. Who did it? Why did they do it? And so on. It is a right of the people, the victims, to know who has done this and why. And then it will be the case of religious leaders like us to appeal to these people to forgive and forget and embrace each other in fraternity. Like what they did in South Africa. Nelson Mandela was for 27 years in jail in the hardest possible conditions that he had to suffer. But when he became the president, how magnanimous he was towards his own persecutors. Even the policeman who harassed him in the jail, he was so kind to them. That is a true Christian spirit. And that's what we must have.
Thank you. Some people I've spoken to, they draw parallels between you and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. How do you see it?
Well, I am not worthy of being called another Tutu, because he was a great man, certainly a very, very, very noble man, and he represented Jesus Christ truly in that difficult situation that they had to go through for years with apartheid. I didn't go through that kind of situation. I am only...
not one annus horribilis, but you've had several years and years of torture, really.
I know, but then we also have been making mistakes ourselves, you see. So none of us is a saint. We are sinners equally. We also have our weaknesses. So you see human weaknesses. Therefore, we cannot cast stones at other people, not at all. But this one, because of the seriousness of the tragedy
Yes.
that struck all these people,
Yes.
I, as their shepherd, I consider myself their shepherd. I have to stand by them, and I must know. As they have a right to know, I also have a right to know, right to inform them who was responsible for these attacks and why did they do it, and so on.
And what of the moves to make these victims saints?
We have started the first step,
Right.
because the Holy Father has given us permission to consider them heroes. Heroes. So, they died for a good purpose.
Indeed.
Heroes. So, we have already sent their names and everything and recommended that they be considered as heroes of the faith. So, I hope we will get through that step soon. Once that happens, then we will see if there is any devotionality towards them in those churches, people coming, praying and all that and getting favors and all that. Then it will be the case for the next step, to consider them saints.
Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, thank you ever so much for talking to me today. And on your journey towards getting to the truth, I wish you only the very, very best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.